I'm going to start today's video, as I often do, with a question. Have you ever felt guilty for taking time away from your business? Maybe you've gone on holiday, maybe you've been ill, maybe one of your children needed you, or could have been a family emergency. And instead of being fully present, half your brain stayed at work. Not because it wanted to, but because you were worried about what would happen if you weren't there. Now, I think every business owner knows that feeling. I certainly do. And over the last few weeks, I've realised something that has genuinely changed how I think about building a business. As many of you know, life for me has been quite full recently. My dad has now been told that he'll be having surgery in around 4 weeks, and obviously that's where my focus is going to be. At the same time, my children are still on the school holidays. Harvest is happening on the farm, there's no denying that. Millie's dancing this weekend, which means costumes. The dresses alone are huge. Sorting out her tan, shoes, rehearsals, hair, deciding on her makeup. Life certainly hasn't slowed down. In fact, it's probably one of the busiest periods I've had for quite a while. And yet something surprised me. Because for the first time in years, I'm not worrying about whether my business will survive. Now, that doesn't mean I wasn't worried. Of course I was. I was worried about my dad. I was worried about making sure my children had a lovely summer. I was worried that I'd forget to pack something or I wouldn't be organised. But I wasn't carrying the extra weight of wondering, if I stop working for a few days, will everything collapse? And that feeling used to follow me everywhere. Now, I think most of us build businesses completely the wrong way around these days. We start by asking, how do I grow? How do I get more clients? How do I create more content? How do I earn more money? And they're perfectly reasonable questions, but they shouldn't be the first questions. I think the first question should be, how do I build something that doesn't depend on me making every single decision? Because that is where your exhaustion is going to come from, not necessarily the work, the decisions. Think about your morning. Who should I email? Who should I follow up with? What should I post? Which clients should I prioritize? Should I do admin? Should I create content? Should I send invoices? Should I redesign my website? Individually, none of those decisions are particularly difficult. But when you're making 50 of them or 100 of them every day, they slowly drain you down. Psychologists call it decision fatigue. I just call it feeling permanently exhausted. Now, probably about a year ago, I stopped asking, how can I work harder? And instead, I started to ask, what decisions can I remove? Just one, not 10, one. If I remove one decision today, next week that's one less decision again, and again, and again. And those tiny changes started compounding over time, and eventually your day starts feeling lighter. Not because you're doing less, but because you're thinking less. And those two are completely different things. That's actually where Connection Scout came from and why it exists today. Most people assume that it's a LinkedIn lead gen service. It isn't. It's a decision removal system. Probably that doesn't sound quite so sexy. But instead of waking up and wondering, who should I be talking to today? That decision's already made for you, and you can spend your energy building relationships instead of searching for them. And it's amazing how much mental space that creates for you. Because confidence isn't having every answer. Confidence is trusting that the important decisions have already been handled. Now, I've realised over the last year that this philosophy extends far beyond LinkedIn. It affects every part of my business. How I create my content, how I build products, how I use AI, how I organise my week. Every system I build has one purpose: to remove unnecessary mental load. Because I don't want to spend my life managing my business. I want to spend my life living it. And that's a very different goal. So I'd like to leave you with one exercise today. Get a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On the left, write every decision you make every single day. Then ask yourself, which of these genuinely still needs me? And I think you'll be surprised by how many don't. Because every little decision you remove creates a bit more freedom, a little more confidence, and a little more space. And eventually, those tiny pieces of space become a business that can support your life instead of constantly competing with it. Now, as always, if you've enjoyed today's conversation, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe, because every week I share the systems, strategies, and lessons that I'm learning while building AI alchemy around real life, not the polished version you often see from coaches online. And if today's video resonated with you, I'd love to hear your answers in the comments. What's one decision in your business that you'd love to never have to make again? Let's help each other start to think a little different.